Hello there. This is Indiana Jones. Searching for my 5th movie. And you might be asking, where's Spielberg and Lucas? Well, God knows what they're doing. Probably producing Jurassic Park 15. Some shit like that, or the special edition of Abraham Lincoln, now with more John Wilkes Booth. Yeah, that probably happened. So now, I'm just out in the ocean on the SS Venture. I rented this boat. I don't know. They say it was, visit some island. So I'll have to see what that island is. Probably not gonna be that threatening though, or have any effect on me, in the slightest. Turn back! What's that? Keep going? Okay, I guess that's what they're saying. I can't exactly hear them, but I can only presume that they're saying, keep going. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna do. Just keep going. Just keep going. Alright, let's see what this is all about. Ooh. I see how it is. Huh. I did with skulls before. You know, like crystal skulls. This is a rock. I can handle rocks. Alright, finally, I found my... Wait a minute. Damn it! Lucas and Spielberg already made a theme park out of it. Shit, this Disney deal was even worse than I expected. What was that poorly edited sound effect? Oh no, it's a poorly designed Stan Winston creation. Plus non-Ben Burt sound effects? This is impossible. My sequel deserves better. Oh no, this might be my last movie. What the? Wow, and I thought Phantom Menace had bad special effects. Hello there YouTube, I'm the LonChaneyReviewer, and today I'm going to be discussing one of my personal favorite films of all time. Now, when people ask me, what are my 3 favorite film influences? I tell them, Steven Spielberg, Walt Disney, but my 3rd biggest film influence isn't a director, isn't a producer. Heck, he isn't even an actor. He's an 18-inch model covered in rabbit's fur. He's the 8th wonder of the world himself. My childhood. Okay, so let's examine my King Kong content, because as you can see, I do have a lot of, not a lot, but I do have some stuff I would like to show to you, which I think is pretty interesting. This is my VHS tape of King Kong. Had this since forever. It's actually my dad's VHS tape, and that's how I got into King Kong, because as a kid, after my father passed away, I wanted to discover stuff through his VHS tapes. And at this point, I hadn't seen Star Wars yet, if that shocks you at all. I didn't see Star Wars till much later, surprisingly. And King Kong was that one thing for me that was really, really sparked as a kid. That and Jurassic Park. And King Kong was realistically the first classic film I ever watched. And I think I did this earlier in the program, but if you press his chest... I don't know if you heard that or not, but he roars. I was able to replace the battery recently, and for a long time the mechanism was missing from this, so I was really upset. And then I bought this other VHS set of King Kong, which I'll examine later, or perhaps another episode, that had another mechanism like this, so I was able to put it in here, and end of story. So let's look at the side and the back. Some Turner Home Entertainment. This is a really beautiful, gorgeous package. I know it's pretty beat up, but it's pretty gorgeous, I have to say. So that's my VHS tape. Now, this is the DVD edition from around the time the Peter Jackson film came out. And I got this from a relative who lives near Las Vegas. And this is one of my favorite Christmas presents I I have ever received, because this is a beautiful DVD packaging. And let's examine it for a minute, shall we? Okay, so this is the front cover. This is the tin. King Kong. It's a beautiful 2-disc tin set. And let's turn the back. One of the most iconic of the Kong posters, which is my t-shirt as well. But yeah, so let's go in depth with this packaging. Now, this is the DVD edition. You can see it's double disc edition. It's got some supplements like commentary track by Ray Harryhausen and Ken Ralston, with excerpts from Cooper and Fay Wray, which I think is awesome. Marion C. Cooper Trailer Gallery, which if you're ever interested in Marion C. Cooper, you should check that out. Disc 2 is where the heart of the special features lies, because you have I Am King Kong, The Exploits of Marion C. Cooper, which is an interesting documentary about one of the most interesting men in the world. And then 7-part documentary on the making of King Kong, which is one of the greatest documentaries I have ever seen in my life. So that documentary alone is worth the price of this packaging. And then we have these postcard type things. Let me just put that aside. Sorry, doing this by myself here. Before I forget, I want to thank my brother Mike. He was the cameraman for the earlier scenes. These are like postcards. That one right there is my favorite poster of King Kong. I don't know why. I just love the look, and I actually got a poster of that I still need to frame. So those are the postcards. The other amazing thing in this package is this reproduction of the Grauman's Chinese Theater program, which I'm not going to go into too much detail with this. Just show you some pictures, which is really cool. It's like there's certain fan favorite movies, and then these are the backings of like some of the other editions, like the Blu-ray, then the DVD. Then this ticket I want to show you, because this is my ticket for when I saw the 2005 version. Now this cost about $5.75 for a child ticket, and this was a long time ago. And I know a lot of people may or may not care for this movie, but when I was 12 years old, this was so cool. I still like the original better when I was a kid, but this was kind of awesome to see a version that was not as good as the original, but still better than the 70s version. If you like the 70s version, that's okay with me, but not a fan. So, there you go. That's the DVD edition. Now, the Blu-ray has the same bonus features, except it actually has less, because A, it doesn't have all the juicy postcards and programs the other one has, but it has a 32-page booklet, which I'll be willing to show you all. Little bits and pieces of it. Now this is poorly filmed, but whatever. Yeah, I'm not going to show you too much of this, but you get the point. It's got information, it's really cool, and it's the Blu-ray. It doesn't have the Marion C. Cooper Trailer Gallery either, but it has both documentaries, the original re-release trailer for King Kong, that is. I do like this packaging. I wish Criterion could get the rights to this film again and put out a Blu-ray, because I think they would do an amazing job. It's not that Warner Brothers didn't do a good job, it's just I feel looking at King Kong, it's one of those films I think could have a better restoration for some reason. I don't know why. I might just be a nitpicker, but that's quite alright. This is this is the best version out there. Don't be fooled. Finally, we have the old Laserdisc edition. This is spine number 2 of the Criterion Laserdisc series from the 80s. Number 1 was Citizen Kane. There's RKO titles, actually, and there's the essay by Ron Haver on the back. And it's double-sided Laserdisc. It's got the cast and everything on the back from Janus Films. And there's a commentary by Ronald Haver, and this is credited usually as being like the birth of audio commentary tracks. And I played this on my Laserdisc player, and it's a very informative track. And I wish this audio track would be on future editions of King Kong, because that would be really awesome. Okay, here's the big boy. This is the 60th anniversary collector's set that I was mentioning earlier. So I'm just going to open that up. Alright, So that's the promotional thing. There's the VHS tape I was telling you about, and then there's this documentary. It's like about a half hour long about King Kong. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's really... I watch it every so often just to amuse myself and be nostalgic. And then up here is the best part. These are 3 frames from the film, taken from the 35mm archival master negative. Really nice stuff. And this is from after King Kong kills the T-Rex or Allosaurus. So that in itself is really awesome. Now, some of you may be wondering what is the plot of King Kong, and for those of you who don't know, you should probably look on IMDb, but I will describe it to you. Basically, we have a motion picture director, played by Robert Armstrong, who is looking for a leading lady in his next film because, according to him, the studio executives are telling him romance sells. If you had a woman in your picture, your film would gross twice as much, as they state in the film. So he goes on this journey, and it's so mysterious that not even the crew know where he's going. So then he finds this lovely blonde, played by Fay Wray, and he's like, wait a minute, I could use her. So he convinces her to go, and since this is Great Depression America, you know, she's willing to take any job for money. You know, those are tough times, man. And for some experts claim that 32, 33 was like the bottom of the Depression, so that makes her decision feel much more realistic. So, anyway, they find the island, and interestingly enough, most people call it Skull Island, but it's never referred to as Skull Island. It's like the island, and there's Skull Mountain, but there is no Skull Island. That was created by a press release, but we can still call it Skull Island because, well, what else is gonna work? So then they find these natives, and the natives say, wait a minute, we could use, your blonde, the golden-haired woman, to offer up as a sacrifice. And they're like, no, we're not interested. So then they steal her, take her away, and they offer her up to the god Kong. Now, Kong doesn't appear for 40 minutes until the film, and as Ron Haver says, his entrance is slightly anticlimactic because, well, you're expecting a lot, and the trees are kind of stiff, and certain elements are kind of stiff, but for me personally, it still works, partially because of the sound effects by Murray Spivak in coordination with Max Steiner's music. Usually the sound designer and the musician have bitter arguments, and sometimes that's for the worse. But for King Kong, it turned out to be a beautiful pairing because the sound effects and the music just go hand in hand so well in this film. So after Kong takes Anne, the sailors try to track her down on the island. Eventually, they get Kong out. Kong is knocked out, and they decide to take Kong to New York. As a Broadway attraction, Kong breaks away, climbs up the Empire State Building, and film history is born because of it. So, what appeals to me about this movie? Well, like I said, I saw this film at a very young age. I was about 8 years old when I first saw it. It was on my kitchen counter, on a 12-inch TV, with this exact VHS tape. Put it on, and I was never so scared in my life. As an 8-year-old, I almost wet myself watching it because it was amazing to watch this. It was this giant gorilla, taking this woman captive, and she was screaming. Everybody was screaming and dying. And the other thing I think I really love about this film, it's an incredibly well-constructed film, which a lot of people, for some reason or another, don't give King Kong credit for. And I think that's the strongest element to King Kong, is that it's a well-paced film, and it's a well-told film. I'm not saying its screenplay is philosophical or anything like that, but it's able to tell a story about a giant ape getting a blonde girl in a pretty reasonable 100-minute runtime, and it feels very well-paced when you consider the fact that a lot of films from this era can sometimes, I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes overstay their welcome. And I think some people will understand me when I say that. Also, I think part of the intrigue with this film is, well, obviously with the pacing, it's non-stop. Like, once you get to the island and once Kong appears, the film doesn't take a breath. It keeps going. You know, it's like, you want to pause? No, BS, we're going further. And that's the problem with the Peter Jackson version, is that it takes too many pauses. Now, visually, the Peter Jackson version is great, but the thing is, so a lot of those quiet moments distract from the point of King Kong, and that's, King Kong is efficient, well-made filmmaking. It doesn't use any contrivances to tell its story. It uses the bare bones, and it works so well. Like, I remember hearing from Ronald Haver that they were originally going to have King Kong open with a flashback sequence. And I thought, that would ruin the film entirely. And they decided to go for this more linear structure, and I think it works to the film's advantage because people are able to easily understand it. You don't have to think as much, and especially if you're a first-time viewer, you want to know what's going to happen next. You don't want to be like, oh, I already know what happens. And that's great. Another element of King Kong I love is the black and white cinematography. And I don't know if I said this earlier in the video or not, but this was, other than the typical Wizard of Oz or Disney films a lot of us are exposed to as children, King Kong was realistically the first classic film I ever watched. And boy, what a film. I thought the black and white cinematography was interesting. And some people don't get black and white cinematography, but personally I enjoy it because movies are essentially a fantasy, and King Kong, in my opinion, is the greatest fantasy ever made. And the black and white helps do that because the world of Skull Island is something that can only happen in a movie or in make-believe. And it works so well on screen. And now I've come to the point where I've really spent most of this video talking about other things, but I haven't even talked about special effects. What about the special effects? Well, they are very important. And yes, they are dated for their time, but they still impress me to this very day. Because it's a movie, and the creatures are in front of the screen, they're fighting each other, and you, as a little kid, I had no doubt in my mind that King Kong was a giant gorilla. I had no doubt in my mind. Not for 1 second. And I remember as a kid, King Kong scared me more than Jurassic Park, and I think part of the reason is because King Kong is on screen. As a kid, I knew there was computers with Jurassic Park, but King Kong is a little bit harder to explain, especially to a youngster like myself. And to those of you who don't understand, I will explain. Because, you know, some people aren't familiar with this, and it's called stop motion. Now, most people are familiar with stop motion because of Robot Chicken, or Wallace and Gromit, or other things. But stop motion is an art form that's almost dead. Basically, it's frame-by-frame models. So basically, let's just say I took this Allosaurus, like frame by frame, I would move him forward, and then I would create the illusion of movement. And that's very difficult. Some people think that's easy, but you really have to understand something. Sound film goes at 24 frames per second, which means you have to create a movement for 1/24th of a second. That means you have to do 24 images a second, and you're doing hundreds, if not thousands of images over a series of hours. Now, you could probably say, oh, can't you take a break? You could, except the lighting's gonna suck because, well, the lighting's gonna be different once you take a break. So you had to keep going. You had to go on for 18 hours. It's not an art form for everyone. It is a very difficult and laborious process. Even when I try to do a simple stop motion video, it's difficult. It's not easy. Even crappy stop motion is very difficult. And King Kong stop motion is superb. It creates these dinosaurs and this giant gorilla that makes this world so wondrous and also like a nightmare because I think part of the stop motion is that the illusion of movement is really there. Like, a lot of people mistake movies as things are really moving. It's the illusion of movement, and stop motion exemplifies this perfectly because they are moving, but they're not really at the same time. It's just a series of pictures. And stop motion's a bit eerie to look at. So that's why I think for me, it was much more frightening than Jurassic Park. In addition to the special effects, though, I will say that one of the best parts of this film are the backgrounds. Now, the backgrounds were painted by Mario Larranaga, and I think Byron Crabbe was another painter as well for this. I'm not sure. I know Mario Larranaga was a painter. And the backgrounds look so great, and there's beautiful matte paintings, which are basically like putting glass in front of an image. That way it makes it look like a certain painted image is there. It was a cost-saving film technique that is essentially dead at the moment. But, you know, just like the backgrounds in King Kong, they're very Gustave Doré, where it's just like, it's light, it's dark in the front, but it's light in the back. And it's a very storybook jungle. And it makes it much more of a fantasy. Which makes King Kong, in my opinion, an even better film than some people realize. But I can't sing this film's praises enough. This film is just a monumental achievement that I think is on the same level as Citizen Kane. Because yes, Citizen Kane's a great film, don't get me wrong, but King Kong helped push simple entertainment. We wouldn't have films like Jurassic Park, we wouldn't have Star Wars, you wouldn't have Avatar without the gorilla on top of the Empire State Building swatting down World War I airplanes. So, that's really about it. Is there anything else I can say about this? Well, not really. Because it's just a great adventure film. One more question. Actually, two more questions. One, can you name me the first classic film you have ever seen? Just asking this as a personal question. Maybe I can do a survey out of it. I don't know. Be really cool. And two, is there a film from your childhood that has still had a resounding impact on you today? Because King Kong for me is both of those things. But it may be different for everyone. And I'd be fascinated to hear all of your responses. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, follow my Twitter feed. Everything's down below my links. Thank you very much.